Argon gas. How does it help your windows? Let's break it down for you.
Desert King windows, we knock out the weather.
Have you ever seen a window fog up? When you're looking at a dual pane window and you see it all fogged up on the inside and you can't clean it because it's between the two panes of glass. Well, that's because of a seal failure and you lost your argon gas. Argon gas is put right between the two panes of glass. It's odorless, tasteless, completely harmless. It's inert, so there's no chemical reaction to it, even if the window were to break. So if it were to break, you don't have to run for dear life. It's perfectly fine. What it is it's 6 times more dense than air. Okay, that means that it is another layer of insulation. Think of it like this. You drain your pool out in the backyard. You can run back and forth pretty easily, right? Well, now if I filled that with water, it's a lot harder to get back and forth, right? That's kind of how argon works, but in this instance, you going back and forth, you are heat or cold. Makes it much more difficult to get through. Not impossible, but slows it down. 6 times more dense than air also means that it reduces vibrations. So those are some extra little added benefits to it. All right, so when you see that fogged up window that you can't clean, what actually happened there? How did water get into there? I'll tell you why. Inside of a house is a constant temperature. Say 70 to 80 degrees year round is what you keep your house at. Well, outside, temperature is going up and down like a yo-yo, right? So what that causes is two panes of glass to expand and contract, and they flex. And this seal doesn't move at the same rate. It pops a seal, right? So that would actually sound almost like a gunshot. You may not be home at the time, or you may hear it and go, what the heck is that? Not know what it is, and no big deal, you're on to the next day, right? Well, what happened was you lost all your argon, and you won't know it until a cold, rainy day. You have your heater on inside, you're keeping it at 70 degrees or so, and outside is cold, almost freezing, and raining. Well, what's gonna happen is you have hot on one side, cold on another side. That causes the air in between there to circulate. No different than if you watch the Weather Channel. You see a hot front and a cold front run into each other. What happens? Thunderstorm, right? Same thing. Now that circulation of air creates a vacuum, and that's what pulls the moisture in that seal. Okay, and that's why you see the fog happen dead center of the glass. So that's a little nerdy way of learning about how argon works in a window. So there are two methods that a glass manufacturer or a window manufacturer can fill the dead air space with argon. Two ways of going about it. First one is what's called the poke. And what it is that's just a glorified needle that pumps up a football. That's what it is. And what it does, it goes in and pierces the seal. So they go ahead and they put the glass and they put in the spacer and everything. They pierce the seal, okay? They pierce it with a second one too. And so then they fill it. They're also sucking out the air. It's not gonna be a perfect process because, well, one is sucking the air back through and some of the argon that they're putting into it, while the other one's pushing in argon. So it's never gonna be 100% fill on that. The second method, and the better method of doing it, of course, it costs a little bit more to do so, is to build it in an argon-rich environment. So that's the entire IG when it's put together with the spacer. Think of it like a sandwich. The bread is the glass, the spacer is the meat and the cheese and all that good stuff. So it sandwiches it together in an argon-enriched environment. That's gonna be a lot more effective of keeping a better seal, because now you don't have that hole that gets sealed up. You don't have to worry about that at all. So that is gonna be a seal that's gonna work a lot better. So when I say an argon-enriched environment, what I mean by that is that basically there's a chamber and the glass will come in and it will be assembled right there in an enclosed chamber that's full of that argon gas. No way that it can possibly leak after that. There's gonna be no weak point of that when it's all said and done. So how long does argon stay in the window? It depends on the spacer itself. Okay, there's a lot of different spacers out there. If you look between two panes of glass and you see those old aluminum U spacers, I believe we have one right in this one here. That right there, it won't last as long in a spacer like that. A spacer like this, where it is the stainless steel, and then they have it covered with the butyl, which is basically a rubber that never dries out, and silicone around the outside. That's going to be sealed up a lot better. Those little balls in there, that's desiccant. Same thing you put on a baby's butt. All of those things will keep the seal nice and sealed for a long time. How do they know how long argon stays in there? Well, there are tests that glass manufacturers and window manufacturers have to submit their IGs to. Now what these do is they go into these big chambers, these IGs. Basically it's supposed to reenact 30 years of extreme weatherization. Hot, cold variants, throwing water at it, you know, that kind of a thing. And then they measure them before they go in, they measure them when they come out. Before they go in, they have to have at least 80% fill to be called an argon window. On average, a cardinal unit will go in about, I want to say, 95% full of argon. When it comes back out, they test them again. They have to have at least 70% left. With this particular seal, it's going to only go down to about 92%. Some other things that they don't use just argon gas in between two panes. There's also Krypton gas. Krypton gas, so argon's 6 times more dense than air. Krypton gas is 7 times or even 8 times more dense than air. A lot of difference in cost. Very, very expensive. Thermally doesn't make any difference in the window at all. Unless you're trying to keep Superman out of your house, Krypton gas there really isn't a point for it. So if you lose your seal, can you replace the argon? And the answer is no. You cannot replace the argon in there. And the reason is because it's 2 panes of glass. And so if you're even trying to do that poke thing again, the seal's already compromised. It's already done. You can't do that. It is actually way more cost effective and works way better to just replace the 2 panes of glass and the whole IG pack on its own. Of course, with Desert King windows and all of the manufacturers that you have your choice from, all of them have a lifetime warranty on the seal. So if you ever get fog between the 2 panes of glass, most manufacturers will even cover the labor on that. Not only is the glass pack free, but so is the labor to install it. So that's very important, doesn't cost you anything but your time. And that's pretty much it. Now you're an expert on argon gas. Choosing new windows can be overwhelming. There's tons of information out there, and AI might miss the mark, but our free window buyer's guide, backed by 25 years of experience, makes it simple. No overcomplicated jargon, just facts to help you decide with confidence. And don't forget to get 3 bids. And if we're in one of your areas, make sure Desert King Windows is on your list. You'll be glad you did.
We use the best windows, 'cause nothing works better. Desert King Windows, we knock out the weather.